really strive to consider all of these sides. How has this changed your personal relationship with developing your own viewpoints? Do you feel like in creating this content, your viewpoints have changed? Do you feel like you've gotten a lot stronger and more grounded into what you believed before? And now you just have more, like you said, you got more tools in the tool belt for
Hmm.
ways to think about it, maybe in your own personal life? Um, or do you feel like your own personal views have gotten more fluid because of the ability to um, argue across the spectrum?
Yeah, my opinions have actually gotten more fluid, which is really interesting and I didn't expect to happen. I thought I would be more grounded in my opinion, or I would change my opinion, but be more grounded in whatever opinion I changed. I'm always open to
Sure.
changing my opinion. That's the thing. Like you mentioned this earlier, that we are essentially being paid to, be curious. When I go into analyzing these things or learning about them, I'm not trying to prove my own opinion right. I'm not trying to prove myself right, which is again comes back to humility, right? Like I'm humble enough to know that I'm not actually the queen of the universe. I might be a counter queen sometimes on my channel, but I'm not actually a queen. I'm not here saying that I have all the opinions. I
Right.
genuinely want to learn the truth. Or and it's really hard because there are some things where we actually don't have a concrete answer. We don't have a truth, right? But I want to learn more about it. And so if I look at it from an academic standpoint and from a I'm learning curiosity, humility situation, it's actually just, expanding my understanding of these topics more, which is kind of making more fluid. And it's not even that I don't have an opinion on these topics, because I do. It's more that I understand the opposing arguments so well that I understand why they might believe that. And I see credibility in a lot of these opinions. And I'm like, well, you know what? Like, I do see some credibility in that. I understand why you might believe that. And as a result, that doesn't make me weaker in my opinion, but it does help me understand that maybe my solution is not the right solution. Because that's different, right? My
Mm,
opinion versus my
yeah.
solution. Those are two different things, which a lot of people don't realize. You can have an opinion on something, but how you solve the situation, especially on the scale of an entire nation or a state, could be very different.
Yeah, and I think that that's absolutely something that we've seen change over the course of political discourse. And that's something that like a lot of people have said about the political state recently, that it's like we used to disagree about we agreed on the problem, but we disagreed on the solution. Now we disagree about what the problem is, right?
Hmm.
And I think that because a lot of these disagreements have become seemingly more like boiled down to what are your ethics, what are your values, and how does that directly translate to politics, the solution is kind of getting merged into your belief,
Hmm.
your opinion, and it gets really dangerous when you conflate the two. um I think it's also interesting, this necessity of understanding the other side and their viewpoint. And one thing that I have found myself doing the more that I understand the other side and like fully grasp their argument is, I thought that I had a rational, like good, solid argument for this. Maybe I don't have a solid argument, but I still believe it.
Yeah.
And getting comfortable with that. What's your 2 cents on that? And this obviously we want to stay curious and be able to have as elegant of an argument for something as possible. But you mentioned this in one of your videos, like philosophical elegance doesn't mean it's true.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
even though we really want to have this kind of clean, pretty answer for something, it's like gray area does not allow for that.
Hmm.
Um, what's your thoughts on that and this? Like, well, both sides have some sort of logic. I just feel this way,
Hmm.
and the validity there. And when does like feeling and emotion become a part of these questions? Because oftentimes they are, especially with things like identity politics. Like feelings and emotions are a part of our the mathing of it all too?
That's a great question. And I think I'm trying to like remember exactly the question so I answer it perfectly or answer it accurately. So, yeah, I think people nowadays, especially, are very uncomfortable with the natural tension that we live in as human beings. Tension exists. We are never going to have full answers to everything. Tell me what consciousness is. You can't.
Yep.
You cannot tell me what consciousness is. Tell me
No one
how it
can.
started. Tell me how the universe started. You can't really tell me that either. Tell me what exactly does a black hole do? Dark matter, dark and I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Part of what I'm doing highlights that we do not have definitive answers for a lot of these questions. And that is okay. It is okay if at the end of the day, you're like, you know what? I see that the opposing side could have these arguments, and maybe I don't have a perfect rebuttal, but I still believe what I believe, right? Because I think we are almost a little, and I don't know, maybe it's social media because everything's so black and white, binary, and, just want to tweet it out and it's just one sentence and I'm not going to have any explanation.
Yeah.
But we are obsessed with this. We need to have an answer, and I'm going to die on this hill. And we also don't want to concede anything because our fear is that if we concede a certain point, if we say, okay, the opposition might be right in this part, they're going to, give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. I really want to get back to the idea that it is okay to concede some points. It is okay to say you don't know, but you still believe this. Now, of course, what's hard about that is if you are debating with someone or conversing with someone who is not a good actor, well-intentioned actor, they will take a mile, right? They will not admit, they will not concede. But again, if we are creating a culture where people are okay with conceding, maybe the person that is across the table from you will one day concede as well and say, you know what, you make some good points as well. But the only way to get there is if we normalize that. And part
Yeah.
of what I'm trying to do. And normalizing that is putting yourself out there. And that means one day I might have to concede on an opinion. I might have to admit I made a mistake. I did something wrong. And I think, especially in the political sphere, we see people doubling down on everything all the time. Like, oh, I said that. Oh, that, they don't want to say that they ever made a mistake. Again, because give an inch, the opposition takes a mile. But if we normalize making mistakes and saying, hey, that's okay, and I might have changed my mind because of X, Y, and Z, and giving a rational reason as to why you changed your mind, I
Yeah.
think we might be able to tackle that issue. And so that was kind of a roundabout way or very, kind of rambling way to answer that question. But I think that I think we need to admit that we do not have answers to all of these questions, that it is okay to not have those answers, and that if you concede, an argument or a point, you're okay. You're going to survive and you can still hold your opinion. But again, you have to be a rational individual when you do it. Now, if you're talking to someone and they are overly emotional, or if let's say let's say you're just very emotional and you can't understand the opposing argument, then maybe I feel this way and that's my opinion is not the best way to go about it. But if you can have a rational argument and you understand the opposition's argument and you say, okay, well, maybe X, Y, and Z, those points are correct, but I still believe what I believe because, in my heart, in my soul, whatever, this is right to me. I think that's okay because you're able to engage with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, your point of being able to change your mind is so well taken in that there's such a fear that you're going to lose your audience, you're going to lose trust, you're going to lose your supporters, your voters, your I'm forgetting the word for it, but like the people you represent in your district, right? And constituents, thank you. But what we actually see psychologically when people are vulnerable, when people admit to wrongdoing, when people open up about these things, it always builds trust. Like there is so much research that grounds into it's like even if we want to take the ethics out of like, okay, being able to admit when you're wrong is a good thing to do. We should all be good at that, right? But even just getting into the nitty-gritty of like, no, it will endear you to your constituents because they see you as human. You're not robotic. And I think that that's really part of what people are looking for from our world leaders and our nation's leaders is someone that is a human being that I can trust, that feels like me,
Mhm.
not someone that is just the spokesperson for a whole party or the spokesperson for an organization or a business or even a set of ideas and beliefs. Human beings want to be able to trust people. And in order to have that trust, we have to have vulnerability. And there is such a fear of that vulnerability. And I think even in you arguing both sides and what you talked about a little bit ago with, needing to rebuttal in the comments or have counterpoints and offer opinions on both sides, there is a lot of vulnerability in that. In people are going to have their opinions about me too, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still going to think what I think and believe in the mission behind what you're doing, right?